I'm good.
Good. Ms. Terry, are you okay? You ready? Okay. I'd like to call the Saline City Council meeting to order. If you'd please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I regret that I'd like to begin this evening with a moment of silence. I was notified earlier today that a longtime Salinian and active community volunteer, a former member of our city's Arts and Culture Committee, Marcy Cameron, passed away this morning unexpectedly. So we extend condolences to her entire family, especially her children and her husband, Jim Cameron. Obviously we realize that this is a very difficult time, but we did want to recognize her and acknowledge her many years of dedicated service to a variety of entities within the Saline community. So if you'd please bow your heads and join me in a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Members present this evening from City Council include Council Members Gearbaugh, Seo, Rice, Lesh, Harmount, Mayor Pro Tem Dillon, and Mayor Morrow. From City staff, we have City Manager O'Toole, Clerk Royal, Police Chief Radzik, Deputy Police Chief Hartwig, and Assistant City Manager Getzman. At this time, the Chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted unless there are amendments.
Moved as submitted.
Moved by, I'm going to go with Seo as the mover, Dillon as the second. All those in favor of approving the agenda as submitted signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. There are no absences, so we'll proceed to the first of two public comment periods, and this public comment period is limited to agenda items. Under the Open Meetings Act, any person may come forward at this time, make comment or question on an item that appears on this agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone who would like to speak to an item is requested, but of course not required to state his or her name and address for the record. Are there any citizen comments on agenda items this evening? And when you speak, please acknowledge the agenda item that you're speaking towards, or to.
Good evening. Chang Ming Fan. Mr. Mayor, council, friends, I'd like to express my feeling, sadness. As you mentioned earlier, the wonderful women left us. And you also mentioned that she was long-term volunteer. If this is the topic, I can continue or after the speech. And which is related another issue. Also, in the public comments, after the wonderful lady comments, the city responds very quickly, immediately. I thank you for this public comments, and it did mention about the citizen who give the time and idea to the city. I think you guys did a great job. I fully support that, and let's continue because of the city belongs to Mr. Mayor, to the council, to the friends, to all the citizens. The citizens should have the right and recognition and even appreciation to come over to talk what they want to say. This is number one. We have to make this ordinance more clearer. And the other one, what I want to say is that the volunteerism, a lot of hidden hero or heroine, is that correct English for ladies to heroine, should be recognized, especially some noticeable people. I'm not going to talk detail. I will say for the second speech, this city is the city of volunteerism and should be have the confidence because of that. And I want to say that we should make the ordinance or law, whatever it said, to match up the people's ideas and their progress. And I do not know if this is enough. And if I have another 5 seconds or less.
You have 35 seconds, but it needs to be focused on agenda items.
Yes, and the agenda, what I talk about, it is what, as the last time, the wonderful lady mentioned that, is the citizens' participation is not only important, It is a foundation of democracy. Any documents or restrictions or whatever, make it clear. As the wonderful lady, Mrs. Dillon said, that transparency. And as you said, leadership in that strategic meeting. What is leadership? It's people lead.
Thank you, Chang
Thank
Ming.
you.
Are there additional citizen comments this evening on agenda items? You have 3 minutes once you begin.
Mary Hess. I want to thank the council in that on the agenda, it does have the public comments at the beginning of the agenda. It had 16 people spoke, and they spoke on the Ann Arbor Spark presentation, South Ann Arbor, street truck traffic, and downtown social district. I appreciate that, and thank you so much. But I noticed at the end of the meeting, it does say 5 people spoke. That's it. It doesn't, it says there were 5 public comments at the end of the meeting. And even though they're not on the agenda, if someone felt it was important to get up and be here, I would think that it would be nice. The other thing I would like, it's not on the agenda, I'm sorry.
You'll have another opportunity at the end of the meeting. Thank you. Are there any additional citizen comments on agenda items this evening? Let me defer to the city clerk. Clerk Royal, did we receive any written comments in advance of tonight's meeting in which the individual wanted their remarks read into the record at this time? No, sir. Easy enough. Then we will transition to the one and only presentation this evening, which is a retirement proclamation for our recently retired police sergeant, Chris Bolter. Would the chief or deputy chief like to join me up front? And we would invite Sergeant Bolter up front as well.
It's coming.
Ben's got it.
There might be half a dozen. Well, thank you for being here. Before I read the resolution proclamation, Deputy Chief, would you like to add anything for the record? Obviously, we're here to recognize Sergeant Bolter, who started his law enforcement career with the Washington County Sheriff's Office, but subsequently spent nearly 25 years as an employee here of the city of Saline, first as a road patrol officer, and then subsequently as a police sergeant. Anything you'd like to add before I read this proclamation?
Sure. Sergeant Chris Bolter. You've been serving this city in various roles since you were a teenager. How old? 14. Okay. It's pretty odd in these days that someone dedicates nearly an entire working career to one employer. The city should be very grateful for having a long-term and dedicated employee like that. During those many years, you've gained a lot of knowledge and taken on a lot of responsibilities. We are very grateful for your efforts in the last months and years to share that knowledge with the next generation of leaders. I'm not going to take up all of your proclamation and repeat those things, but I want to congratulate you on behalf of the police department and the people of Saline for your many years of hard work, and we wish you a long and happy retirement.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I've got your retirement badge.
Thank you, sir.
And then obviously the city has worked to put together a nice display of your work with us and the county.
All right. Thank you, Deputy Chief. Okay, friends, I'm going to read this proclamation in its totality. It touches on many of the things that Deputy Chief Hartwig just articulated, but it encapsulates what is a very long and impressive career and innumerable contributions that Sergeant Bolter has made to the City of Saline and the Saline Police Department more specifically. So this is entitled City of Saline in recognition of Christopher Bolter. Whereas Christopher Bolter first worked with the Washington County Sheriff's Office starting in 1999. Christopher then came to the Saline Police Department beginning in 2000 and has served the Saline community for the last 24 years, 3 of those as a sergeant. And whereas Sergeant Bolter began his interest in law enforcement as a police explorer with the Saline Police Department while he was still in high school. Sergeant Bolter was subsequently able to assist students interested in law enforcement and public safety by both mentoring and leading the Saline Police Cadet Program, for several years. And whereas throughout his law enforcement career, Chris Bolter served as a countywide field force team and worked as a field training program manager, training coordinator, and property room manager. He also attended Eastern Michigan Staff and Command and the Saline Leadership Institute. And whereas Sergeant Bolter announced his retirement as of May 31st, 2023, after a long and distinguished career in public safety, the city of Saline wishes him well in all his future endeavors. Now, therefore, I, Brian Morrow, Mayor of the City of Saline, on behalf of Saline City Council and the citizens of Saline, do hereby thank Christopher Bolter for his long and dedicated service and outstanding performance to the City of Saline and the Saline Police Department, with sincerest best wishes for a long and enjoyable retirement. And I set my hand and seal to this document on the 3rd day of June 2024. Chris, congratulations.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah. That for you. And as Deputy Chief Hartwig made mention of, I think this was coordinated or prepared under the leadership of our administrative assistant and police chief. I think you were probably inspired by your time at the sheriff's office, because they provide beautiful shadow boxes like this. But we are pleased to present you, Sergeant Bolter, with this really attractive shadow box that includes some badges, your badge, handcuffs, and then denotes your years of service, 1999 to 2024, with both the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office and Saline Police Department. Again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Anything you'd like to add?
Just want to thank all the citizens. I'm truly humbled by the outpouring of gratitude from the citizens, and over the years, the citizens have been great. This really is a great community. I've lived in this community since 1988. And I plan on dying in this community. Saline really is home. It's a great place to be, and I'm just very thankful for all the citizens over the years that have supported the police department, and I hope we can continue to see that support. So, thank you.
Thank you. Can we present you with this?
Sure.
No.
This is fine.
Here, I'll take it.
Okay, my friends, moving right along on the agenda this evening, we come to the consent portion of the agenda. The following consent agenda will normally be adopted without discussion. However, at the request of any citizen or council member, any item may be removed from the consent agenda for council discussion.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
As submitted, Mr. Gearbaugh? Thank you. Is there a second? Was that supported by Harmount? Thank you, Councilwoman. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. We come now to new business. There is just one item, and that is 24-116, Personnel Policy Updates. This will be a motion to acknowledge the receipt of the memo from Assistant City Manager Getzman and to adopt or not to adopt the 2024 Personnel Policy and Handbook Update.
Move to acknowledge receipt.
Move simply to acknowledge receipt by Gearbaugh. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Dillon. Assistant City Manager Getzman, would you mind coming to the podium and providing some brief obligatory remarks, and then we'll open it up for questions from the dais.
This is working. So we've been trying to update the personnel policies on an annual basis.
Oh, you know what, I don't think that microphone is not on.
Is the green light illuminated at the base?
Both.
That one's dead?
This one is on. Do I just, this one should.
Yep, now I can hear you.
That was good.
Yep.
Okay, so we've been trying to do personnel policy updates on an annual basis. There's just a few here since we've been keeping up with it. It doesn't require quite the same overhaul that we did a couple of years ago. So there's just a few sections. We changed language related to nepotism and personal relationships. So on our application, when you're applying now, there's a question that specifically asks you to say yes or no if you're related to a city employee or elected official. Related to personal appearance, there was some language in there about casual Fridays, which was kind of dated, so we just took that out, which we feel kind of.
We may need to switch you to the cordless mic. I don't think it's,
Do you want to lift it up, Ellen, just speak directly into it? Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I can kind of hear it going in and out, so I'm sorry.
Thank
Good, better now, right?
Much
Yes,
better.
that's good.
Okay,
Thank you.
so related to personal appearance in the dress code, we took out some language related to casual Friday, which was kind of dated. We feel like it doesn't reflect how our staff dress, as long as people are professional and keeping it business casual. It's kind of how we are on a day-to-day basis, which can also be something to help attract or retain employees when they're looking for someplace to work. And then we changed the language related to overtime for non-exempt employees and vacation payouts, which doesn't change our practice in terms of we pay out at the end of the fiscal year. An employee can request these banks to be paid out at any time, but now they'll have the option to come and request vacation time be paid out. And for non-exempt employees, comp time is going to be paid out to zero regardless, which follows what we do with our staff employees. So it's just a way to kind of keep the banks in check. And then the last one was parental leave. We have the two kinds of parental leave. So there's primary and secondary care. If you're requesting the primary care leave, we just ask that you provide some documentation that you're going to be the primary caregiver in the household.
Very good. Thank you. City Manager O'Toole, anything you'd like to add?
No, just, again, this is something that we review annually, and it does get attorney sign-off if we have any specific concerns. For example, the OT versus compensation question is one we absolutely ran by legal before changing.
Very good. Questions? Mr. Gearbo, would you like to begin?
Yeah, just a couple. Just looking at this, I know the nepotism rule, I'm glad that we're having on the applications. Of course, I've always had my concerns about disclosure of nepotism from existing employees. Is that still accomplished now, and how do we handle that in terms of reporting and all of those aspects?
So that is a great question. Council member Dillon also brought it up earlier. I think that's something we're going to have to defer to legal counsel to determine if there is a form or format that should specifically be followed to disclose new relationships that emerge after employees have been hired.
Okay, because I know in similar issues that generally needs to be done so that we don't have problems with evaluations or potential lawsuits. All right, that's the one on nepotism, so I look forward to seeing that correction coming soon. The other three items, I'm fine with the casual day. That was a thing that probably should have been changed years ago. It was an opportunity to help certain charities, but that doesn't make sense any longer. The one question I do have, though, is on both of them, did we do any kind of cost benefit? Is there any cost issues with this in terms of support, or management versus the employee? I know both of these seem to benefit the employee, but are there any benefits for management in these changes?
So the comp rule would actually probably be more beneficial to management, simply because we would be paying out at that day's rate instead of letting people roll forward to a future time when their pay rate may be higher. This particular change, because it's non-union staff, really only affects 3 to 4 people at any given time. So we're not talking about particularly large banks that anyone's rolling forward. Definitely a bigger question if this was something we were to bring up during union negotiations, though.
Okay. And then the only other one question was about the parental leave, and I just want to clarify on that. Is that going to cause us any issues with coverage or any issues with that and concerns?
No, no particular concerns on that. I think staff just, we've had a few people who've had children, and staff were confused about how that delineates between primary versus secondary parent in those cases.
Okay. That's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Gearbo. Additional questions for staff? Mayor Pro Tem Dillon?
Oh, thank you. I thank you to the city manager. I had some questions earlier. I actually have some overarching questions about policy changes that I think we need to address at some point, and one I'll bring up in a moment, but related specifically to the ones that we had. As Mr. Gearbaum mentioned about the personal appearance one, I totally understand casual Friday is sort of an old term nowadays. And I do appreciate that we are a little bit more lax. That sounds probably derogatory to say it, in a way in which we allow our employees to dress more in a business casual. Having children now that are in the workforce who have never experienced actual, what I would call work attire, they have no idea what that is, and so this is sort of the standard going forward, and so I'm glad that the city is adopting it. I think it will be very well received, as long as it's not an abuse thing, which I don't see it being here in the city. As far as the vacation banks, I think my only question was what Mr. Gearbaugh had said, and I appreciate what the city manager said, which is I'd like it to be use it, lose it, pay it out, whatever, and not carry things over, because it's just perpetuating our liabilities. So I appreciate that you're clarifying that. And then the one about the parental leave and understanding that. Do we need to delineate between two types of leave, like parental leave?
We don't need to, but because we grant one more leave than another, certainly council has discretion if you wanted to just have one universal policy, but the way the policy is currently drafted, the primary caregiver would get 4 weeks and the secondary caregiver would get 2 weeks.
So, yeah, I guess I just sort of want to understand what that is. I just don't want to be in a situation where if I were to be the secondary and then all of a sudden my spouse is called back to work and then I need to become the primary to get those 2 weeks, is that going to be more of a disruption to city processes in that you'd only banked on me being out for 2 weeks, but now I'm going to be out for 4 weeks? And so I guess my understanding would it just be easier to have, this is our policy? And I guess it's just something I want to.
Yes, it would be easier to administer and much clearer for staff. I mean, this is a policy we changed probably about 3 years ago. At the time, there was still some discussion around maternal versus paternal leave, and we were trying to do something that was a little bit more gender agnostic. And this was the settlement. If council's sentiment is different and they want one universal policy now, we're happy to pursue that.
Okay, and I mean, that's not something that we've discussed as a body. It was just something that,
Yeah.
as I was sort of working through this going, it seems very confusing that it could change without notice if, based on the way the language seemed to be in here. So just understanding that aspect of it would be helpful. I guess my big questions are, what triggered these? Are there people that ask for these changes? Is this something that we're just trying to clarify language?
Like across the board, all the changes are in?
Just all of the changes right now at this point.
Some of it is things that popped up, like the administration of the parental leave, right? That just ended up with, we should change the policy to make it clearer. And then I know it was just kind of in conversation. I think you brought up the time bank payouts.
Yeah, the time bank payouts are more to align with our risk reduction strategies of limiting liability over time.
Okay.
Just kind of cleaning things up too and making it clear.
Okay. Well, no, because I just appreciate it because you said that you do a yearly review, and I was like, of all of the things, it seemed like I was surprised that those were the only things that sort of bubbled to the surface, that there might be other ones. Because my one question would be, when we talk about the nepotism policy, is the way that it's currently worded, we're talking about, we've added language for potential employees, applicants. What I don't see in here is clear language for current employees.
Yeah.
And so kind of understanding that aspect.
Yeah, and that's a question I'll have to defer to legal, to how we would have to structure the reporting of a new relationship for an existing employee.
Right. But if we're going to require it of somebody coming in, it should also be the same.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't want to misspeak or
No,
misrepresent.
that's fine. And then there were a couple other ones. The only other one that sort of bubbled to the top really quickly, that isn't on your thing, that I'd like to make sure at some point we look at, which is under our smoking one. We talk about that you're not allowed to obviously smoke inside of our buildings, and you have to smoke, I think it's 20 feet away from our doors. But the smokeless tobacco, i.e. vaping, the way that it's written, it actually implies that you can smoke in the building or inside of vehicles or anything like that. It does not have that same thing. So I would like to make sure that those match and that we are not vaping inside of our buildings, inside of our vehicles, or anything like that at some point.
Could you let us know what section?
Sure, it's section 4.19, it's page 26.
4.19. Sorry, it's a large document, so it's a lot easier to just know.
No, that's fine.
I mean, I would be happy, to consider an amendment from the dais if we just want to add vaping to that definition of smoking.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that.
Vaping too narrow, though? Of a
Well,
definition?
I think we currently use it says use smokeless tobacco or e-cigarettes or vapors. And so, I mean, we could probably just take the first paragraph, and it's something that could always come back at some point. I mean, I don't know, people haven't had an opportunity to look at it, so I don't know if people feel comfortable, whatever the case may be. It's just, I want to make sure that we're very clear, especially inside of, like, building spaces, inside of city vehicles, that there is not vaping happening.
Yep.
I think just, if I may, I would suggest that conferring with staff or legal, play with that language a little bit. I think substantively, I would doubt there's any objection from the dais, so maybe it can just be put on as an amendment to this document at our next meeting as part of the consent agenda.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything else, Mayor Pro Tem Dillon?
Nope, that's all. Thank
Additional
you.
questions from the dais?
Yeah.
Please.
Just along those lines with regards to tobacco, I would say use of any tobacco products on or within 20 feet of the building. So we shouldn't be, chewing of tobacco or other, I think should be also included as well. It's not professional. The other item was question about the payout of vacation time. Was there going to be a max of payout for vacation time? Like if you have, I don't know, X amount of weeks, but you can only be paid out a week or whatever at the end of the year. Is there any limit to that?
No, whatever's in your bank can be paid out.
Is there any flexibility for offset for overtime flex?
Like,
Like if somebody was working overtime and they wanted to offset, maybe they had applied for vacation time, but they could offset their overtime or working different hours? Do we have that flex?
yeah, we
have that
allow flex time within our existing policies, yes.
Okay. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Okay. We have a motion on the floor moved by Gearboss, seconded by Dillon to acknowledge. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion now to adopt or not to adopt the 2024 Personnel Policy and Handbook Update?
Motion to adopt.
Moved by Lesh to adopt, seconded by CO. Any additional discussion? Mr. Gearboss?
Just real quick, regarding the vaping, and I would like to see the vaping and the advanced nepotism policy or whatever, or what I'm calling nepotism, come back to us. Can you give us a time period?
I mean, the new nepotism policy will really depend on legal, so absolutely we can get the vaping on the next consent agenda, but I imagine there's also going to be more substantive discussion to the nepotism change. Probably the July 1st would be a more realistic timeline.
Okay, if we can have that as a consideration in July.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean to be an
I
amendment.
mean, we can certainly aim for the next meeting, but I just want to set realistic expectations.
No,
yeah.
that's what I meant. I want
Yeah.
to have something within the next month or two,
Yep.
not necessarily next meeting. Thank you.
I think it's reasonable to expect if we can't get it done at the next meeting, we could get it done at the first meeting in July.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? Then we have a motion on the floor moved by Lesh, seconded by CO to adopt. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We'll transition now to the discussion portion of our agenda. First up is reports and commission updates or other announcements. And as I indicated at the last meeting, I'm going to start this evening with Councilmember Dillon, work to my left, and end with Councilmember CO. So Mayor Pro Tem Dillon, you have the floor.
Thank you. First, just a reminder that the city will be hosting a town hall. It will both be in person and virtual via our YouTube channel. It will be regarding our 2024 road projects. It will be next Wednesday, June 12th at 5:30 p.m. It will also be recorded, so if you're not able to participate in it in real time, there will be a recording that you can view afterwards, and questions are always accepted by emailing the council or DPW or the city manager. So with that, I probably should have said that I apologize. I do not have committee or commission report outs this week, as my meetings are all this week, so those will be coming at our next meeting. There is one other thing that I wanted to make mention of because I think it is important. Part of our consent agenda tonight was a proclamation regarding Gun Violence Awareness Day, which is coming up next Friday, or this Friday, excuse me, June 7th. And I just think it's a very important thing. I wanted to make sure that it just didn't get kind of caught up in the paperwork because gun violence is an issue. It's an issue in every community in the United States right now. And I just want to put out a few statistics so that people do realize that it's a real thing. So far in 2024, nearly 5,000 people have died by a gun violence, which is an average of 108 people per day. There's also been more than 49 mass shootings so far this year. There have been more than 3,000 deaths by guns suicide this year. There have been 181 unintentional shootings. And I will always bring this up. Every single month, there's an average of 70 women that are shot and killed by an intimate partner. And I'm sorry, it's a very personal thing to me, as I lost a friend to this. Gun violence needs our attention, not just on June 7th, but all of the time. If you own guns, please keep them in a safe place. The city provides free locks. There are other mechanisms to protect your weapons. Please do so. Also, the city is going to be creating, as part of its new wellness committee, there will be an avenue of it related to domestic violence, gun violence, and personal safety. So that will be coming in the coming months. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for that. Much appreciated. Mr. Gearbaugh, reports, other announcements, or updates from committees?
Thank you. I want to just concur with Mayor Pro Tem Dillon, gun violence and domestic violence. Again, Washtenaw County just released information regarding suicides, and the number of suicides in white males has exceedingly grown. And as a result, the gun is usually the primary solution. So whatever we can do to make sure that we can solve those problems, I think needs to happen. As to other issues, Wellhead Protection Group met today to discuss more of the issues of where our wells are and looking at our aquifers and potential of where we potentially could put more wells based upon what we see from the geological aspects and so forth. Unfortunately, today's report had one well in a location that's not where a well is, so that's going to have to go back to the drawing board and be reviewed. So I'm looking forward to having that corrected. But also, there'll be a report coming probably to council in August to update us on that issue so that can be submitted to Eagle and to be resolved. And of course, as we know with Eagle, how they respond will be interesting. Also, I want to thank our community and the members of the DEI and everything for the pride flag raising on Saturday. It was great to see our community come out and support in this time in nature, and especially in the recent concerns where even a terrorist announcement was made because of concerns of these type of events could be exposed to violence. I appreciate our community standing up for those rights of our other LGBTQA plus community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gearbaugh. Appreciate that. Councilmember Rice, any reports, announcements, or updates from committees or commissions?
I want to thank everyone who was able to make it to the Pride flag raising ceremony on Saturday. With that will also be a picnic on June 30th, sponsored by Saline Supports. So please come out, excuse me, come out to Mill Pond Park to join us for that. I was wondering if Mr. Gearbaugh was going to bring this up, but I would like to point out to both the city manager and the mayor that there have been a series of talks by Washtenaw County commissioners on the new mental health and public safety millage. So if we could work real hard to try to get one of those talks to happen here in Saline. I know there was one tonight out, excuse me, let me take a sip, out in Manchester. So hopefully we can get some times tied down for folks to join us here at City Hall to talk about that millage. I think
Can I stop you real quick? I think, if I'm not mistaken, we were attempting to coordinate that with some representatives from the county about a month ago, were we not? We were just running into conflicts in terms of when their speakers were available and when the council chambers would be available. Is that correct? That is correct. Okay, but we can certainly reach out again tomorrow and see if we can facilitate that. But
and if I could, I've been conversing with Shannon Beeman about this, and she had mentioned that part of the concern was to hear the information regarding some concerns by individuals in terms of accountability for the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Department, getting the feedback and not related to that prior to what I believe is the commission board is going to vote this week. So if we do have her come out, it'll be more for informational related to the actual ballot initiative in November.
Yep.
But right now, we're trying to get feedback and understanding from people as to what there's concerns by some feeling that this is an attack on the sheriff by asking for additional information and follow up on how the funds are being expended, I guess. So that was more where I think they've been trying to get
Fair
feedback and understanding of what are the concerns of individuals.
Okay. Very good.
Thanks for that. I advise everyone to check out the Saline Parks and Rec Facebook page and the website. There was a great carnival over the weekend. I hope that families were out enjoying that. I heard a lot of great feedback about that. But we've got the camp out in Mill Pond Park coming up. We've got movies in the park coming up. The mini Mastodon is on Thursday from 2 to 3 p.m. So check out the Saline Recreation Facebook page, and lots of good stuff now that we're heading into summer coming up. That's it.
Very good. Councilmember Harmount?
I don't have anything.
Easy enough. Councilmember Lesh?
Arts and culture, make sure everybody has on their calendars, July 20th at Mill Pond Park is going to be Jazz in the Park. Should be a nice program this year. And in the next few weeks, hopefully you will be seeing some new artwork around Saline.
Very good, excellent. Councilmember Seal?
Yes, just a reminder that tomorrow at noon, there's a groundbreaking at the library, Saline District Library, to sort of kick off the renovation plans that are going on there. And everybody's invited if they'd like to come. Noon at the library tomorrow.
Very good. Thank you for that. I have several. I'll try to be brief. First, I know I speak for everyone at the dais and everybody in city government when I acknowledge and thank all those who were involved in organizing our annual Memorial Day festivities, which of course included a pancake breakfast, a parade, a program at Oakwood Cemetery, and then a subsequent lunch provided by Robinson Baumiller Funeral Home and American Legion Post 322. I know a number of my predecessors and former colleagues felt this way, but the Memorial Day festivities, I think, are one of the most important, one of our signature events that we provide to the community. And I think it's absolutely essential to take time to honor and recognize our fallen heroes. So again, thanks to everybody who helped to organize and lead those events, and of equal importance, everybody who chose to take time out of what I know is a busy schedule to attend and participate. To echo some comments made by Councilmember Rice, and I don't know if the city manager has received any feedback, but she was present with her family at the community carnival on Friday. I was there on Friday. It seemed like it was well attended, well organized, and enjoyed by many people in the community. So I look forward to a more comprehensive report either from the city manager or from Saline Parks and Rec, but I'm hopeful that that can become an annual event. Nice event to add to our community social calendar, but also a great way to derive some additional revenue to Saline Parks and the Rec Center more specifically. Transitioning, I received some feedback on Facebook about striping on Maple Road, specifically on North Maple as you head towards Michigan Ave and Old Creek. And there's a wide lane that is used for vehicles going southbound and also those turning onto Michigan Ave. This is rhetorical. If you don't have the answer, I'm not necessarily expecting it. If you need to get back to us, that's fine. But I wonder if there's ever going to be any additional striping done or additional signage put up in that vicinity.
Yes, so the striping that's on Maple Road right now is temporary. The project was finished late in the fall, so it wasn't appropriate to put down permanent pavement markings. And as it happens, that was probably for the best because we do have some minor asphalt repairs that still need to happen on Maple Road as well. Once those asphalt repairs are concluded, at this point we're mostly just waiting for school to get out, then the permanent pavement markings will go in. And the pavement is expected, or the pavement markings are expected to be similar to what was there originally, which is a 2 dedicated lanes, 1 left turn, 1 that's straight or right turn. So yes, better pavement markings, permanent pavement markings are imminent.
And timeline for that would be late June, early July?
Yeah, I would say within the next 6 to 8 weeks is reasonable.
Okay. All right, very good. I appreciate that, and I'll respond accordingly to those who inquired. I did receive feedback today from the Treasurer's Office, and they wanted me to be sure to share this. There were apparently some voicemails left or some emails sent over the weekend expressing consternation about residents and business owners' inability to access the building after hours on the weekend to pay drop off utility bills at our front counter. And as people will recall, when we had 24-hour dispatch in-house, this facility was open essentially 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and people could come in at any hours to drop off utility bills. You can still come in to drop off utility bills or absentee ballots or any other paperwork during normal business hours, but the facility is closed after 5, barring some sort of special event or meeting. But I do want to remind folks that for several decades now, we have maintained 2 24-hour drop boxes, one here at City Hall behind the police department and the other behind Comerica Bank and Max. You don't even need to get out of your car. You can simply drive drive up, drop off payment, paperwork, or an absentee ballot. I do want to note that those boxes are not checked during the weekends, but are normally checked at least once a day during the normal business week. So please feel free to utilize those in the future. And if you'd prefer to come in, you can, of course, do so and drop off something, but it would need to be during normal office hours, which is about 8:30 to 5 p.m. The last thing I want to address, and I'll try to be brief, and my apologies, I probably should have done some messaging on this 2 weeks ago, but I did want to provide a brief update from the Fire Board. As many are aware, in mid-May, the Fire Board held a special meeting, a closed session here at City Hall. I want to talk a little bit about the process. It is appropriate on occasion for governmental bodies to convene into closed or executive session. It doesn't happen frequently. At the council level, probably happens about half a dozen times per year. But again, it is appropriate on occasion. The statutes are pretty clear on this matter that it is inappropriate and potentially damaging to an individual, entity, and organization to discuss or disclose materials or discussions that were held in closed or executive sessions. I should also note that if any subsequent action is required, that would have to be done, debated, discussed, and voted upon in an open session in which any member of the public would be able to participate and view. Additionally, there have been some statements made online which are not factual, scurrilous, and potentially liable. And I don't think it's appropriate to base opinion on conjecture, rumor, hearsay, or anonymous sources. That's not what Saline is about. We're a community that's grounded in fact, reason, and logic. So I would just encourage folks to have some level of fidelity and respect for the process. I'm keenly aware that these types of things do breed some questions and concerns, which I think are perfectly legitimate, and it's perfectly legitimate to articulate those and to raise those with your appointed and government officials. But I also think it's critical that we respect the rules, even when we disagree with them. So again, closed sessions do happen. It is improper and potentially there are legal consequences, legal ramifications if individuals discuss material or conversations had in closed sessions. That's all I have to say on that matter. Are there any additional discussion items that people would like to bring forward this evening? Mayor Pro Tem Dillon, please.
Thank you. Just as we continue to talk about the Fire Board and that meeting, I just also wanted to make a statement that there were some statements being made that the meeting was done in secrecy, that it was done at City Hall rather than the firehouse and such. And just to clarify that, the reason the meeting was done here is it does provide more of an element of privacy, which is required for that. When we have our general meetings at the firehouse, they're held in the living, eating quarters of the firehouse. There's really not a lot of privacy that can be, and there really isn't an expectation of full privacy. And they can be very disruptive when alarms go off and such. So the meeting was held here. It was not to be secretive. It was not as a deterrent. And so I just want to set that straight, that we did it here more so that we would have an area in which we knew that the closed session could happen.
Very good. Thank you for that. If there are no additional reports or announcements or committee updates, City Manager O'Toole, can we transition to the last discussion item of the evening, which is a update on the outdoor cafe policy?
Thank you. So recently, staff identified some concerns with how best to process requests for installation of those temporary outdoor cafe areas. And historically, if the footprint for a cafe area didn't change, it was just administratively approved by the clerk's office. When there were requests for changes, however, staff have lacked clarity on really what the expectation was for them to review, what we were supposed to be reviewing for, and whether any specific criteria existed. So really, I just asked that this be added so that I could put on council's radar. Staff will be pursuing a more comprehensive strategy and a specific policy around this for the future. We're not going to just handle this administratively without a clear procedure behind it any longer. And at this point, if there are any specific council considerations prior to us adopting that policy that you would like us to be mindful of, I welcome that feedback.
And of course, if folks have some feedback tonight, we would welcome that. Otherwise, put it in writing to your office.
Correct, yep.
And is the assumption or the approach here going to be that it first is reviewed and discussed by our policy committee and then subsequently brought to city council?
The policy committee is largely focusing on ordinances at this point. I would say for this, should be a pretty straightforward administrative policy once implemented, but it does require council input, because obviously it's the use of a city street or city right-of-way.
Absolutely. Okay, that sounds reasonable to me. Barring comments or opinions or thoughts being articulated from the dais this evening, what is the time frame in which you would like comments provided to your office in writing?
Community Development Director Harrington will be the lead on drafting the policy, and he'll be out for an extended period of time later this month. So likely looking at one of the July meetings as our target, potentially the second one.
So what I would suggest then, let me pull up my calendar. What I'd suggest to my council colleagues, again, if you have thoughts this evening, we would welcome those, but if you could provide comments to the city manager and/or community development director no later than June 17th, that gives folks 2 weeks.
Yep.
That would be appropriate and appreciated. Are there any comments from the dais this evening on this issue? No? Okay, easy enough. Thank you. Thank you, City Manager. We come to the second public comment period now. Under the Open Meetings Act, any person may come forward and at this time and make comment or question to City Council. This public comment period will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone who would like to speak is requested, but of course not required, to state his or her name and address for the record. Are there any citizen comments this evening? Please.
Good evening, Council. My name is Ryan Baumgart. I live on 100 South Harris Street, right across the street here. I am just briefly here. I am running for District 3 County Commissioner. So I just wanted to make a brief introduction of myself to the council. And specifically, Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you also for the Memorial Day service. I appreciated your speech on that.
Thank you.
And again, Council, thank you. My name is Ryan Baumgart. It's a pleasure to meet all of you.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate your time this evening. Any additional citizen comments? Again, you'll have 3 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, council friends, my name is Chang Ming Fan. I want to continue. The volunteerism in this city should be noted. And I said before, attention, attention, attention is the key to not only change the atmosphere in the United States, economy, create jobs, but also, most importantly, keep this world safer, more productive, and solve a lot of problems. I noticed that some of wonderful leaders of you have the short video volunteer to present something so we can see, draw the attention, but it's too short. And I want you to know that is part of the volunteer review. You have to let the people know what you have in doing. What I see, I listen to your comments and questions, high quality, and solve the real problem. That means you have done quite a lot of homework. And most parties volunteer. This city beautiful, safer, and also smells better is because of your hard work, without considering payment or not, and also the city. So here's the story. I want to cut it very short. I give the name Nana Turtle. This turtle, probably hundreds of years, this big, probably laid about 100 eggs at the library near Miltown. And how did it happen? Because of Mr. G. Did the work, clean the work without considering any payment, and then cleaning all of the paths and chairs. So that place is safer, like the turtle lay eggs right under the sun. And also, because of that, a lot of people come to the library. That is a volunteer. So this kind of thing should be recognized, should draw the people's attention. You can look at the Facebook, you can look at the Google map. Something new happened in Saline. So, Mr. Mayor, the volunteerism is important. It probably is part of the foundation of the city. Saline should be the best city. But how many people pay attention to that? Because of attention, we have to really change the way how people get the news. So here, another, I don't know, do I have 20 seconds?
22.
Too bad. I would say this is Web 3.0, selling the whatever it is, Bitcoin, become the claim the 3.0. That's not right. I think we have to really change the way to communicate. So therefore, SALT initiative, open domain, public display light, and that is hard to change the attention dramatically.
Thank you, Changming. Yep. Are there additional citizen comments this evening?
Mary Ann. I agree with Councilman Dillon as far as regarding the Gun Violence Awareness Day. And I hope we can put a little bit more publicity to it, be it the mayor or council or something, because it definitely is very, very important. And I thank you for bringing that up. And I also saw the personnel policy updates. It's 55 pages of both sides, and then another 20 pages of both sides that don't have numbers on it. I wonder how many council members got to read it. It wasn't a hurry to push it through. It could have been faced to where, was this put on the agenda for people to read?
Yes, and it was the only substantive item on the agenda tonight.
Well, I appreciate that, but it's definitely, I'm sorry that it was pushed through, because there's many, many things in here, and I think we should have had more time. Thank you.
Any additional citizen comments this evening? Clerk Royal, may I defer to you? Did we receive any written communiques in advance of tonight's meeting in which the individual or individuals wanted their remarks read at this time? No, sir. Easy enough. Then if there's no additional business to come before Saline City Council, the chair would be happy to entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:52.
So moved.
Moved by Gearba. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Dillon. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Good, how are you?